Welcome, everybody, to Board Stiff. It's Board Stiff. We're back at show number 3. Can you believe it? 3.
Three.
It's
I
awesome.
can't believe we made it to 3.
Right? I mean, we're getting picked up. Our pilot got picked up. You know, usually it's 2. Right?
It's these massive production values.
Yeah, exactly. You can see
We've passed the number of viewers we have.
We did. Hey, I think we're up to like 28 or something.
I didn't watch the last episode, so you know what?
Oh, that's good. That means there was one more than I thought there was. But I thought we were all looking. So, all right. So we go. We spent some time talking video games here, and just a little bit background on the show. If you haven't watched show 1 or 2, we are talking not video games. Did I say video games?
You did.
Oh my God! See, this is what happens when I got 2 shows.
Too many shows, man.
Right. This is board games, and we're talking about family-friendly board games, given the situation where we all wanted to have a little more board game time and either cooped up and trying to introduce it to our families as well as close relatives and friends. We're trying to bring games to the table that people will watch, or I said watch and play and learn. And that's what the show Board Stiff is about. So what we're going to first do is jump in. Last week we talked about back and forth how we wanted to review some games. And I think I actually did listen to the second show at the end, Chris. And I remember you mentioned saying something about rolling dice. I think, shoot, we should have done that. So I wasn't prepped for this show yet, but I do think for the next show we should do that.
Okay.
Some kind of online dice roll. But this week, last week you can check out, we did Terraforming Mars with some amazing content on it from you guys. And then we talked about, what was the show on? I forgot what the first one was. Firefly, right? Yeah.
Firefly.
All right. This week, we're going to jump right into it. If you want to be a part of it, of course, you can go to Twitter and hit us up at BoardStiff4. That's BoardStiff, the number 4, because there's usually 4 of us. Right now, our wonderful high production value logo is taking over the Wilt spot, right? And number 4, but we go by that. As well as you can hit us at email at boardstiffgamer with an R at gmail.com. And of course, YouTube, if you're watching this right now, you know it, but if you're listening by podcast, you can check the video and see our ugly mugs out at Board Stiff on.
You're probably better off if you don't.
Yeah, that's true. Just trust us. We're all gorge.
It's not worth it.
Stay where it is. We're like,
The video adds nothing.
We're models, right? Actually, we're pretty good looking dudes. Come on. For gamers, come on.
Could be worse for gamers. Yeah, you know. Could be worse.
We just alienated everybody. It's like, what do you think? You think you're better than me? No. So it's all good.
There's just some conflict for you.
Yeah, right. And believe me, that's worse conflict. Trust me. You don't want to get into that game. All right. So let's speaking of games, getting into games, let's get into review. And this week we're going to review. Now, Chris, you caught me on this too, as I just messed up with video games and board games. I said Elder Scroll, right?
Elder Scroll.
That is the video.
That is a video game.
Right. That's a great game, not the show. So Elder Sign. So this is a game, and I'll let you guys jump into it a little bit now. I know it's one of my fanboy companies that make it, Fantasy Flight Games. It has a ton of lore, which, to be honest with you, I don't know much about. Nor do I think people that are coming to the table for the first time to play a game care about, right? But maybe.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, it's,
right?
You know, Lovecraft was from what, 100-something years ago? I mean, it's just,
right? Yeah. You're like, maybe, the Arkham horror and I don't even know where it even goes. I'm not even a big fanboy of that, so I don't even know. But I know there's some lore behind it. There's some stuff associated with it, right? Can anybody expand a little bit on that? And then do you agree that is this something that family or friends that are coming to the table for the first time even care about, or no, for this game?
I think there's a decent overlap, between gamers and geeks and sort of science fiction, fantasy, and sort of Lovecraftian horror is a genre of that, so I think there's some pretty good overlap there, and I guess we'll talk about this more when we get to it, but even if you frankly don't really care that much for the theme, the game construction is good, the art is great, we'll talk about that more later. Yeah. But if you are kind of casually interested in occult and ancient horrors from beyond, it definitely enhances the game somewhat.
So it really helps those that are really cultish in your family that like the sound. They drink a lot of Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and I mean that's a plus and a minus.
Kool-Aid. I don't know why, but
yeah, that's definitely a plus and a minus that I that I will talk about when I get to my part
Very
as
cool.
well.
Love
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great theme. It's super fun. And I think Fantasy Flight has 3 or 4 games in this universe, and like the art is somewhat consistent from game to game, and
Right.
so
Yeah.
good on them for reusing some art assets, I guess.
How about you, John? What do you think?
Well, Kathleen loves this game, and she is absolutely not someone who goes for the sort of Lovecraftian Cthulhu.
Yeah, Cthulhu. That was it. That's where I was going.
Her media is consumed if they have British accents or subtitles.
Or preferably both.
Right.
Or both.
Dark. If she didn't see that.
I think she just she's very big into combinations, and that's what this game's all about, right? It's essentially Yahtzee with a theme.
There we go.
Yeah.
In a lot of
So we
ways.
agree that
Good summary.
Not
Review
Yahtzee.
over.
Yahtzee with a thing. There's a couple of games like that too, which I think we'll find is a good way to introduce games that have mechanisms based on very popular, right, structures that you at least can wrap your head around initially. So it goes
Well, yeah, it's sort of like hey, if you like Yahtzee, you might like this. You might like Dice Throne.
Yeah,
You
which
might
I think is very important. So if we start diving into it and jumping into the review, that's a great point to even start everything off with, is anytime you can associate with something they know. I mean, I guess in the world in general, right? When you're trying to psychologically get somebody on board or to work with you, you got to give them a premise and a position to start from. So on a review, Johnny, you started off, and then we'll go to Chris and go on the review of the game. Now, remember, we're talking about playability, bringing it to the table for your wife, your mother-in-law, your bestie friend, or whatever, coming over that aren't big gamers, trying to get them to sit down and say, hey, let's play this, and then to enjoy the night. And glad they came over, right?
Wait, what were our 3? There's the dust factor.
Wait. So yeah, there is the playability, right? Is it 1 or is it 10? Right? 1 is good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the kind of game where if you have somebody who knows the game, right? If you know the game and you bring it to the table, playability is the easiest it could be for a person, because you could coach them through, this combination's hard. It takes 3 minutes to teach the game at its essence, and then you could teach more layers as you go.
Right.
So the thing I like about it is you can quickly start playing, especially if you've carefully bagged everything so that you don't have to sort the 47,000 Fantasy Flight tokens when you start the game.
Right.
Better boxes, Fantasy Flight. This is what we're asking for.
Yeah. Right.
But it's a game that comes to the table a lot for us because it's so quick to set up, and the more you bring it to the table, the less you need to refresh yourself on the rules each time you play it. Like I said, the theme, you don't have to go all in for the theme, but if you do, the combinations of dice you need to get follow the theme of the card really well most times. There's a lot of monsters, or you need to give up time to defeat this monster.
Yeah.
So if you want to embed yourself, or not embed yourself in the theme, sort of, swim around in the theme, you can, but you don't have to. You could just say, okay, I need 3 of these symbols, and I'm going to increase my odds by taking a yellow die.
Yes.
Or you could say, I need to defeat this monster, and I'm going to cast a spell, and I'm going to spend extra time and give up some sanity to do this, right?
Yeah.
You can act it out, right? Yeah.
So that's why I think it's very playable. You could treat it as, I'm going to spend a blue thing and a red thing and turn the dial, or really just jump into that theme.
Yeah.
So.
Good stuff. And I know, Chris, we've talked back and forth about the min-maxing situation. This game definitely leads itself to that. If you bring a friend or have a relative or somebody to the table that also appreciates that, right? The mathematics of it too. But still, if they're not, still thematically and has a nice presence. What do you think?
Yeah, I did John actually identify a number?
Oh, no. Good point. Playability, 1 to 10. 1 being the best.
In terms of difficulty, lower number being easier, correct? I can't remember our system. I'm going to go with...
Pause the video while we check YouTube and remember what our system
Right, what
was.
are we supposed to be doing? Yeah.
Everybody freeze.
I think it peaks at a 6, but you could start with a 3. So sort of like you don't need to explain all the rules when you
Gotcha.
play your first round. You could somebody go there, roll these dice. Hey, look, these are your odds.
4.5. Got
I don't
it.
think it peaks any higher than a 6, really. I think it's a medium.
So it can get a little difficult, which I think may be the case, but I think that goes into the expansion side. But we don't even talk about expansion on this one if we don't want to. But Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. So I very much agree with what John said in terms, if you completely ignore the artwork and you completely ignore the theme, it's, a dice set collection game. So, for the gamers out there, that's the sort of mechanic that we're talking about. Yahtzee with a twist. There's cards that affect what dice you get. There's cards that give you special abilities. You've got this tableau of rooms in this museum, I guess they are, that you're investigating. I don't know that it really even matters, but you've got these objectives and there's monsters, and but at the end of the day, everything is rolling dice. And exactly as John said, you get the table set up, you tell a new player, hey, we're going to play this game. Well, what do I do in this game? You roll dice and you try to match the thing that's on the card. Oh, okay, I understand that. Then the next level of that is you open up that page on the manual that has what all the dice face are, so you can start to think about the statistics and think about, oh, well, if I add a yellow die, or, oh, I matched the red die but not the green die, and which one do I take out, right? So there's that sort of second level of mathy statistic stuff. As John said, it kind of starts at a 3 and maybe it gets up to a 6. There are different enemies, think end boss in the game. And depending on which one you select, the game can be significantly more complicated because there are some additional rules that come into play for some of the other monsters.
Which I don't remember the rules saying, hey, play this one. Was there one there? They do say, actually, there is one. They say, play this one first, right?
Yeah, I don't remember in Elder Sign. I have the, another Fantasy Flight game, which is Eldritch Horror, which is a big kind of world map cooperative type game. This is also a cooperative game. We should say that. Everybody is working together to try and defeat the big bad and all the little monsters. Okay, so from a complexity point of view, yeah, absolutely. You're starting at a 3. Maybe it gets to a 6. I think I would stop maybe at a 5. So 3-ish, 4-ish to get started. And then if you really kind of want to get into the theme of it, or you're really trying to min-max all the cards and some of the other interactions, different characters have different bonus abilities. And, oh, on my turn, I'll use my thing, and on your turn, you'll use your thing, and we'll combine forces. And, like many co-op games, you have to avoid alpha gamer approaches, which is a personal weakness. So yeah, I'll call it like a 3-5, and it's a super easy game to explain to pretty much any audience.
Wonderful, good reviews, guys, on that. John, you bring the game right up to the screen so we can see it, because normally I would do great production values and have it there, but since you got it right there,
the part 2 stuff.
Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get there.
Sneak preview.
Okay.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right, there it is. Elder Sign. All right. To the back. There's, as always, Fantasy Flight, there's a lot of little bits and pieces, right?
This is Shane's next tattoo right there.
There it is. Right on the old ankle, baby. Love it. Actually, be on my left.
Left D20.
So, yeah, exactly. So so let's talk about that. And what I'll add to that, and I think it's a good segue because we're going to talk about co-op games even more that we like. This is that, right? So it kind of stays with the theme we didn't really talk about. The first factor in this that I think is valuable is that you bring people to the table and it's not competitive against each other. So psychologically, or how you want to deal with it, you know your family well enough. You know if they're really aggressive, very competitive family, maybe sports oriented or what have you, then maybe you look at other direct competitive games. For those that don't have that either the competitive spirit or want to play, don't play sports, or really just look to having a good time together versus having that one-on-one.
Right. Or would like to not be invited to sleep on the couch tonight.
Exactly. You what? Because somebody can talk pretty well, right? In the family, if you get that, look out, because they're on the couch, usually me. So what happens is, by having it co-op, I think this game sets itself up right away for having value coming to the table. And with that said, is to your points, to kind of echo and reiterate, the mechanics aren't that difficult overall when you start playing. This is a game I definitely believe you just start playing and you get the feel for it versus sitting here. Let me tell you this rule, how this works, what happens before the case happens. So, and because really it's not going to make or break the game at all, right? As you get going with it, you kind of get them, hey, where do you want to go? Let's start rolling it. And then within the 2-3 turns, they pick it up. I think that's very important. People understand that is possible, because the number one fear, and I've been thinking a lot about this, especially for the show, is that fear of separation where you think, oh my God, I'm going to lose somebody here, right? And we're going to finish this game on. They're not going to have fun, and we should be focusing on them because they're over, or we should have a good time, and really concerned about that. The nice thing about this is everybody can get it. Yahtzee, it's a Yahtzee-based game. When we talk about rolling dice, a certain number of
Yahtzee is a registered trademark of whoever made Yahtzee.
Yeah, right now, isn't that from like 1825? That game, isn't it now copyright free?
I don't know. I mean, it's like
we say
Mickey Mouse.
Yahtzee
They
two
just
more
keep
times.
renewing
Here.
the copyrights.
Yeah, take a look at the link. Buy Yahtzee today. With that said, though, is that, because people can understand that, and I don't know if we did this on camera or off camera, we started talking about relatability to games in general, and when you can start talking psychologically about games that people already know or are aware of that have good relationships to them, not like going really deep with a game. And some games focus on it. Like I will even throw like Clue. You get people to go, oh my God, that is, don't even go, or you get like, oh my God, I love that game. Those type of mechanics, because there's a few mechanics in that too. But when you say Yahtzee, it's like, yeah, I get it. So that, along with the co-op ability of it, and the fact that there's not a ton of mechanics either within it once you get going on it. To your point, Chris, too, is that you roll dice. There's some monsters, but in the end, you're working together to solve a problem. And in the end, really, the lore has little to no value unless you want it to be there, right? Unless you're really geekified to the whole thing. So with that said, I thought a lot about it too, and I actually believe this is kind of right down the middle at 5. I think somebody said, Chris, you said 5, right?
I said 3 to 5.
3 to 6, yeah. So we're at 4.5. So yeah, and I would tend to lend between the 4.5 and 5 as well. So I think we're all in the same belief that this does have value. It may not be the number one, and I think we'll talk about that in a couple shows down the line as far as the dust factor, specifically number ones. But for this game, I think it's something you can feel confident about bringing out, showing them. You're gonna have a little more patience, still a little bit. Maybe we should change to a patience scale, but simplicity. It is, I would say, a 4 to 5 on it as well. So, all right, good reviews on that. And what's that, Wilts? What number? Oh, I don't hear. Okay, just check and see if we could add them in or not. All right, so let's move on. We said what we want to do in this show is we used to talk a little bit about Kickstarter, and we said that's all over the place because some months or whatever may have it. Some may be really on fire and then be over by the time somebody sees this, and nothing worse than saying, hey, I just listened to 20 minutes of these guys ranting about this game, now I go and I can't even get it, right? So all these, to your points, guys, it makes a lot of sense. So along the way, if something comes up about Kickstarter that you just bought or just want to talk about it, awesome. Because unfortunately, as we know, most of these games end up on retail shelves, right? The retailers are buying it and will eventually put it on the shelf for folks to look at, but it's not so much Kickstarter related than it is just general games. So what we do want to do is then break into kind of just a general segment across the board rather than focusing on just on one game. A theme that would still reflect what we think is valuable to bring to the table for family and friends, but a little more thematic than just a single game. And this week we started talking about co-op games. So
may I interrupt my distinguished colleague from the Southwest?
Go for it.
We haven't done our dust ratings yet.
Good point. Let's go around. I got to go back and watch the show so I remember what we're doing too. All right. So, wait, we're going to start reverse, right? So that would go with me?
Yeah.
Handle it in post.
Yeah. Just cut that whole segment out and switch it to the back.
Actually, I'll just replace it with a
zipper cut. It'll be fine.
Yeah, dude, I almost don't have much time editing the show, as you can tell when watch the past shows. All right, so dust factor.
Sorry, I know I'm blowing your train of thought there.
That's right. No, elder sign. What is the dust factor? I'm going to say its simplicity is 5 on it. I am going to say a dust factor will be maybe a 6 to 7. That was a tough one. I thought about it before because I think it's got playability, but I think there's a lot of other dice games out there as well that will bring to the table as much or more than this game. So now if I'm separating the two, and it was hard to say, I still think it's kind of the middle of the road game, so you can't go wrong. But as far as dust factor, I think if you buy the game, you'll play it, it'll go away for a little bit. Once you go through the cycle of the better dice games and play them a little bit more, you'll go back to them because you're a dice fan. You like using dice. They'll come back out. So I'm going to give it probably about a 6 on that. What about you, Chris?
I'm going to give a split review here.
Okay.
And, because I think when we introduced ourselves, we talked a little bit about what our families were. Maybe we didn't. I can't remember. I think of the folks, of the four of us, I think I have the youngest children in my house.
Yep.
They're not super young. I mean, I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Yep.
So we're starting to get into the point where I'll say more adult themes are okay to bring to the game table. But certainly 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. And, I don't remember the first time I played Elder Sign with you, John, or with our group of friends. I enjoyed the game right away. Not a game I would have brought to the table to play with a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. So all of that awesome theming about Lovecraftian horror, which I enjoy, not really appropriate for grandma, not really appropriate for, well, maybe some grandmas, not my grandma, not really appropriate for 7-year-olds. I mean, people are losing sanity, people are losing blood, there's little, your life is little heart icons. I mean, it's sort of dark intentionally.
Very,
I think the art is
Yep.
I think the art is fantastic. I love it. Like I said, I have another game by Fantasy Flight that uses the same theme. It's one of my favorite games to play, but not really a mid to young family game. So if I had this game, if I owned this game today, which I don't because of this reason, probably wouldn't get a lot of gameplay here at the home. I'm whenever it comes up in our game nights, I'm always like, yeah, I want to play that game. I love that game. So for a younger family, or if you have, like you said, a guest coming over and they're a little more sensitive about the content of the types of games you're playing, this is going to be an 8 or 9. You're going to have to be careful about which friends you play this game with.
Okay. Yeah.
If you have a gaming group like that, or if the people that you're bringing over are adults for all intents and purposes, bring it out. It's a perfectly good theme. If people can watch cable TV, they can handle this game. So in that case, I would say 3 or a 4. I don't have a lot of other dice games in my collection, so I can't really compare like Shane did. But I like this game. Every time we play it, it seems like it's fun whether we win or lose. So,
gotcha.
I'm going to give it a 3 or 4 if you've got the right group. But if you have a younger family or a more sensitive audience, maybe a 8 or 9. So be careful.
How you say that. All right, very cool. Love it. Johnny.
It's tough to say. So
this is why we're asking you.
You're on camera.
For us, it's our number 1 dice rolling Cthulhu themed game.
Okay.
How many of those do you have exactly?
A plethora.
Well, so the reason I say it's tough to say is our game collection is like that. We've got kind of like one of each sort of, you take all the themes and make all the Venn diagrams. We've got sort of like one of each. So when we're in the mood to chuck some dice and we don't want it to be competitive, this is our option.
Yeah.
Chuck some dice but have it be competitive, we'll play Space Base.
Okay.
So dust factor wise, it's more about how often do we want a dice rolling co-op game than it is about, is this the dice rolling co-op game we want? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for us, those kinds of choices change over time. So my kids are getting older, so we could do more competitive games. They're more interested in competitive games now.
They don't take it personally anymore.
Co-op games.
Yeah.
But this is a great one. If Kath and I are playing a game, we might play this just because we both, we've played it so much, it's almost like on autopilot. It's like putting, The Empire Strikes Back on TV. You don't even need to sit in front of it. You can just
do
around and know what's going on.
You mean that?
X-Wing in the background.
But it's almost like, she could crack a bottle of wine, I could have a beer, we could be playing this and talking, and it's a comfortable game for us. So it's a low number for our family.
Gotcha.
For that reason.
So that number is?
So 2 or 3-ish for us, right?
Very cool.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, for the right group, I absolutely agree. It's definitely in the 2 or 3 if you've got the right people, and like you said, it's almost so simple that it's just you can play it on autopilot. Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. No. That's not a bad
especially
thing.
if your family is small or you want a 2-player game and you have a relationship with the person you're playing with where you are much more into games and maybe more competitive than your spouse. Co-op games are good.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3. Okay, yeah.
They're all there.
Right audience.
Because like, you can say, Shane, to Irene, hey, let's play dice throw, and you're like, and
Yeah.
is it my turn yet? You're like, no, I just won.
Exactly. And game. Right.
And game.
Right.
Oh yeah, this is a 2 or 3 for us for those reasons.
Yeah. And when we talked about it, what I do agree with is that the simplicity of it is there, and the mechanics that we talked about, the dust factor, so you can bring it out. One thing I do think we should add to this that might, I don't know if it adds to it, if you're really trying to get folks, and again, this is your table, depending on what you really love and want to lead people to start playing with you, right? Because you're the gamer and so forth, is role playing. And I think that if you're a role player as well as a board gamer, I actually think this has a little bit of value to start bringing to the table.
Has a little flavor there.
Yeah, introduce the characters, right, and have them kind of not only say role play, because you're not going to get them going, oh, I'm the the nurse, and oh, let's fix you up and do right. You're going to get that, but what you're going to do is saying you're this character, you're playing this character, this has this lives and this ability, right, or this scenario. And I think if you do that without them knowing it, you're really getting them into the role-playing concept or understanding, and then you can start introducing other stuff down the line. So if that's an area that you think is valuable, then I would, and they do like this, then I would move the dust factor up a little. Like I would bring it out a little bit more, because you're going to get a little bit of that in there as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it, like you said, it's a pretty thin little frosting coat of role-playing, but much like I think some of the other games we're going to talk about in the quick co-op game segment, you get a unique player in your co-op game, which gives you some special ability, and trying to understand how that a little bit of asymmetry helps the game and helps the team.
Correct. That's exactly.
Is starting to get into that role-playing game kind of space. So I agree with that entirely.
What do you think about this for 8 players? Because it says it goes up to 8.
Oof.
That
I don't know
seems.
if I play it with 8.
I don't know if I could, but I think we would just, wouldn't you crush it?
So you've played it with 2, and you said that works really well.
I think 2 to 4.
And we played it with 5, I think, and that was okay.
Yeah. I don't know about 8, but I guess because you're still dealing with luck in most of the game, right? So even if you have 8, you think, oh, you're going to crush because there's more people playing and rolling dice and doing it.
Yeah, but the clock's moving faster.
Right. And that's
so,
without getting into the deep review of each mechanic of the game with the clock, there is an element that isn't in a lot of other ones that requires your timing, right? So a lot of people say just play to 8, right? And then
should I use this power yet before midnight happens? Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of games, which you're fine too, especially if you have a time restraint with people coming over. Playing it's an 8 cycle game. There's a few of them out there.
They have a fixed number of turns.
Yes. Right.
This doesn't have a fixed number of turns. There's just a penalty, right?
Right. But and again, right. But the point being is it gets tougher and tougher, and really there is a fixed number, because if it gets too many times around the clock, it's going to release the monster or whatever, and you're going to
lose. I think with 8 people it would be tough, because that clock is going to go around twice before you even get to take a turn again. So you're not really going to get a chance to react to
whatever
the changes.
Right.
You could use your power, whatever your special power is, maybe.
Yeah, but I feel like I don't know, I feel like you'd have a lot of idle time playing with that many people.
I wouldn't do it with 8 people.
Yeah.
No, I think that's too
Which is why I'm telling you, if we start looking through this, all these little mechanics that stick out for not only us, but to make a perfect game for the family is coming through. Even when we heard about Firefly, initial thing, Wilt's brought it up in regards to that you could be doing something while everybody else is doing that. There's probably some value to that in a game too, right? So if we were starting to build a mechanics of a game that we think in the end, and we'll probably do, and then we'll kickstart it and we'll make millions. But when we get it done, that I think does have value in it as well. So yeah, great points, guys. Good points. All right. So as I started to say, and then backtracked and fell back because I just re-edited, and now we're back. We are talking the co-ops. And so this was a great review because it is a co-op based game as well, and bringing it to the table. And you heard my psychology behind co-op games, thinking that it does eliminate some walls on folks that want to get together, especially if you're not very competitive. So and I asked you guys, and we all put together kind of a quick list of 1 or 2 games that you felt, or one game that you felt was the best to bring out for co-op focused people coming to the table, not real competitive, or you just want to make it fun for all working together for a cause, right? That's co-op. And what games did you recommend? Now I know, John, you've shown it a couple times, so if you want to start, there are a couple. Okay, you can bring them closer too so we can see when we talk about them. And so why don't you jump in and introduce both of them and then let us know why you think that these are the games.
You guys know this one? Hanabi?
You got a reflection there. There you go.
Yes, familiar with
I
it.
feel like we've played that one before, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, so basically it's got a couple of concepts that would be new to people like us that grew up with, Parker Brothers games. You don't know what you have in your hand. Your cards face the rest of the players. And on your turn, you can give information to any other player.
Right. I remember this one now. Yeah.
And you can tell them that, you have only, these 2 cards are ones, or these 3 cards are green. You can give one piece of information about a number or a color. And then together you're trying to give each other enough information to put the cards in order and color columns, basically. You're trying to put everything in nice sequence. That's a quick review.
But reversed, right? Because you can't see them. It's all got to be discussed, right?
Yeah, you can't see it, and so you have to say, I need a green 3, and I think this is a green 3, and you put it down, and hopefully you're right. So the reason why I like this game is, like I said, it's something people are not necessarily used to. Like, what do you mean I can't see my cards? Only other people can see my cards, which is kind of fun because it's a neat, kitschy little thing.
Yeah.
So quick to teach.
It's actually a rare mechanism. I don't know too many that do that. Maybe a couple. You know what I mean?
I don't know. All I can think of is headbands.
Right.
Kids game with the picture.
Or the thing you're flipping.
You're a frog! You're a frog!
Interestingly, on Board Game Geek, it's listed as a headband style game or something like that. The game mechanic is listed as headband style.
Yeah.
But it's quick. It's easy to set up. It's only 4 players, I think. I don't know if it goes above 4.
Yeah.
But it's a really great one for.
So it's interesting because you don't mention. Isn't the theme of the game basically fireworks? Yet there's really not, or something associated with it.
Yeah. So there's a theme, right? You're trying to construct.
There's numbers and colors. Nobody knows the theme.
Right. Let me see, because I think I have it.
Not strong theming.
No.
Right here, right? So this is like, because on the cover, right, it shows fireworks. Now, I know when I did some looking on this one, I didn't on the other game we were going to talk about, but just this one, I saw that they actually come out, there's a card version, and then there's a token version too, which is interesting. Yeah, which is, I think you can see it right there. These are the tokens down in that area.
Interesting.
So I don't know why, maybe it's just another mechanical way that they do it, but it's funny you bring this game because when I started watching, because I hadn't played it, but I wanted to see what you're referring to, it kind of gave me shivers because I just came off of some really bad experiences with Phase 10 when I was working with some people. That game, I will throw that. If somebody points that game out to me, I will set it on fire. All right, not a game. Not a game that fits with me. So when I start seeing this game, I hear colors and numbers, right?
Yeah.
No, not for me.
Did you get like Uno flashbacks? Is that what you're saying?
Uno, or what's the other one? Is Uno, Phase 10, Skippo. That's the other game that's out there. So, which by the way, if you talk to somebody and go, hey, you know Skippo or you know Uno? Oh, yeah. Here's the game. And if they go,
this game's nothing like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but you don't see your own cards. What? I don't get it. But the interesting thing, though, about the game was that the mechanism, obviously, of you not seeing your cards, but having to remember who said what to you. And I think the interesting thing was, because the first thing I said, well, that's not hard, because once somebody says it, I'll just move the card. And there is no rules that say you can't hold the cards any different way.
You can hold them any way you want.
Right, which tells me I can hold them sideways. If somebody tells me it's this color, and I can learn I could code myself. Here's your
run out of degrees of freedom.
Right.
Eventually, though, you play a card, and then one replaces it, and you're like, wait, was this one? And that was the one
Yeah. Well, wait, this is red, green, blue, right? And then you create this whole world for yourself. I'm like, I don't know. You could probably pretty much get this game down if you wanted to go that way. But anyways, I thought it was, to your point, though, is a good game for everybody, kind of just a simplistic thing, right, to do. But having that reverse mechanism, I think would definitely get people to go, oh, wow, this is neat. This is gaming.
Well, it makes it a little more social, right? I mean, you're interacting with each other. I mean, I don't know how casual social it is because there's a lot of concentration in that game.
There is, well, and you're involved on everybody's turn, which is really...
Nobody's sitting idle, but you have to be
with
focused.
A new game, right?
Good point.
We were talking about with Elder Sign, right? 8 people playing that game. You're not going to be that active on the other 7 people's turns. But on this, you're constantly paying attention.
Yeah.
So that's good too for teaching a new person a game. You're all engaged all the time.
Gotcha.
Not a great drinking game.
Oof, no, because you can't remember it at all. Oh, and going back on. Look at this, so we don't move on there. Okay. Next. What else you got, John? You mentioned that
Oh.
about that?
I love this game. I love Horrified.
Have we played this? I don't know that one at all.
Me either. Wow. Okay. Cool.
Don't know it.
Why? Just tell us why it's a co-op and why it's good to bring out the table.
So it's co-op. So you're all trying to fight a classic Universal Studios monster. Frankenstein, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Nice.
Nice.
Actually, it's Frankenstein and the Bride. The Invisible Man, the Wolfman. And you're just moving around the board collecting. You have to collect the set of stuff you need to defeat the monster.
Okay.
It's got a theme most people can identify with, and even though it's monsters, it's the 1950s.
Yeah, not scary monsters.
They're not
Halloween
scary
monsters. Yeah.
The thing you need to do for each monster is different. Like, so for Dracula, you've got to collect a few of each color item to close each coffin. And there's a lightly painted veneer of theme on it, but it's enough. You're moving around the board, you're avoiding the monster, you roll a die to see if he attacks you. If he kills you, you just go to the hospital and you respawn in your next turn. You don't even lose your stuff.
So he don't kill you, then he just wounds you.
You go to the hospital, and the level increases in the town, right? Ooh, there's been another attack.
Yeah.
So
Well, that reminds me of Geister, which I completely forgot of mentioning in this segment because that
my kids asked to play that last week.
My turn. Yeah.
They said, "Can we play Geister, Schatzmeister?" I said, "I don't have it. Chris owns it." Chris, it's just like that game.
Yeah. Except with Hollywood monsters. How cool.
Picking stuff up, trying to get away from the bad guys, and you defeat the monster in the end.
Nice.
Prospero Hall makes games I love. They've got a new one coming out about Back to the Future.
What was the name of the designer or the game?
Prospero Hall. It's the game studio out in California. They've just done one very similar, a co-op game where you're trying to get Marty and Lorraine together, and the timer in the game is that fades over time.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Not a game for your kids, Chris.
I can't wait to get it. But anyway, Horrified, excellent family game. Very light. I think Board Game Geek, most people ranked it at a 2 of 5 on complexity.
Wow. Okay.
It's really not that complex at all.
Good.
I'm
Takes about
texting
40
my
minutes.
off-screen assistant to see if they'll bring me the game, so we don't have to.
Wow, you got an assistant? I can
What's
really
it called
use
in
something to
English?
print out stuff for my for the logo and everything.
Something brave treasure hunters. I can't even remember. All right, to the Google.
Ghost Fight and Treasure Hunters.
Ghost Fight. That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
Yeah, and that's a great one. I can highly recommend that one too, because that one is great for 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and like
and 84-year-olds.
Nice.
And,
yeah.
Well, I didn't think of that one in time, so maybe one of my assistants will bring me that. But what I did think of is extremely classic co-op game, by one of the people who basically invented the genre. This one's by Game Right, unlike Pandemic, which is the other one that gets a lot of credit for inventing the genre. This, if I recall correctly, was the second in the series. There was Forbidden Island was first.
Yep.
I think it's the same game designer, Chris.
Well, Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert are the same designer.
I think it's
Is
all.
Pandemic also the same designer?
Why is his name escaping me? Matt Leacock?
Matt Leacock?
Yeah, I think he
Leacock? I may be pronouncing that wrong. I'm reading it off the box. Sorry, Matt. I don't know. I'm sorry that I don't remember that. But anyway, if you've played Pandemic, it's a very similar mechanic. And I think this is sort of a general theme of how co-op games work, right? So all the players have an ability. Many of them have an asymmetric ability where I have a role that's different than your role. And you go around the table, and then once everybody's had a turn, something in the game mechanic does bad stuff. In this case, it's you get sand on the map and it covers up the map, and the objective is you're trying to collect these artifacts to rebuild some kind of spaceship, steampunk spaceship thing to fly away and save everybody, right? So you've crashed in the desert. I don't know, whatever. The theme is not that embedded, but at the end of the day, you've got your players. They're moving around the map. You're collecting these artifacts. I think there's a really nice system in this game with the way the cards are revealed. There's sort of map tiles that they're hidden, and you have to use actions to expose them. So, there's a clock running. You have a limited amount of water, and you have a deck of cards that has the bad stuff in it. And every time you go through it, it kind of gets harder and harder and harder. And there's certain mechanics that kind of ratchet up the badness as the game goes on. Pandemic is the same way. The Forbidden games are the same way. So that's a lot of these co-op games have that style. I think the one you were describing, Horrified, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And Geister don't so much have that same mechanic. No. They're more of a team snatch and grab kind of game. But I like this one because I played this with my parents who are not super gamers. I mean, they know how to play games, but that's just not a thing they're into. Yeah. I played this with my kids when they were much younger. I mean, this is a game. I mean, it says on the box, it's ages 10 and up. You don't need to read to play this game. You need to basically understand simple instructions. So 7, I mean, it depends how, where your kids are. But I mean, we were playing this game with my kids when they were 7 or 8. And they loved this because it was the first, grown-up game they got to play. It wasn't, Chutes and Ladders and, Candyland.
Because it is, to me, a game that kind of is masked as though it's a regular adult game, but I've always found that game really is a kid's introduction game.
Sure.
Because I played
a gamer introduction game,
right?
Not just kids.
Yeah, but I found though when I bring in this a couple of times where I brought people in to it that were adults or everything, it lacks something. I don't know what it was. I never asked them specifically, and now that we're doing this podcast, I wish I did. But I would say
it's not a real sophisticated game. I mean, there's not a lot of deep strategy.
It's a little too simplistic or kiddie-ish. So no disrespect. If you got a kid, young kids, you're trying to get them in 100%, which by the way is probably a lot that would be listening to the show, or hopefully will be listening to the show looking back. So 100%, we don't want to poo-poo that. But if you're looking at now separating it from the kids and the older mother-in-law or whatever, but you got a friend or a wife that's maybe hasn't gamed before, it's hard to say. There's something about it though that I just remember going, it's missing something.
I think I know what it is.
You do? Okay. What?
So I think it's choices, right? So adults want meaty choices, right? Yeah. This game has choices, but even Horrified.
Not meaty choices.
The choices are not grand or difficult to make usually. The choice is pretty obvious usually, right?
Right.
That piece of desert's about to sink, or I can't remember. I mix up Forbidden.
Cover up with sand.
It's almost like a video game that sends you down a certain path you have to go anyways, right? So if you're an open source world video gamer, not to cross streams again, but
it's a good analogy.
It would be that this is not the game. This kind of sets you on a path, which again in the end was good. But I just remember even finishing it, looking over, and they weren't as proud or excited of winning as I thought there'd be. You put all the components together and boom, it takes off and everything, but it didn't have, a grand finale, if you will, to it. Does that make sense? I don't know. I just off the top of my head, we were thinking about it, but definitely good for younger kids and older folks.
Yeah, it is not for experienced or technical gamers. I would definitely say this is a light game. This is an after you've played a really deep game and your brains are tired, or when people are still showing up and you want to kill some time. I mean, so we haven't played this game in a while, but when we do play it, it's usually when my parents are here, my in-laws are here, because it's the level of game that, after they've been in the car all day and slept in a guest bedroom, the next day they have enough energy to play a game at this, level of technical difficulty.
Which is good for mixed company.
Segue, because, and especially for time we got here, I want to jump in on this one. Well, okay, let's just bring it all up here. And I will be brief on this because I don't think we have to go into detail as much on this, but because when you just mentioned simplicity games, or like this is a great game for simplicity introducing and stuff, it's great. This is a co-op game, why I bring it up, that I believe that if you want to bring people to the table to become gamers and to really be like, okay, I'm getting the concept of mechanics, how it works, I get a theme, I get excited. And let me tell you what, at the end of this game, it does bring you great joy when you win.
The tension as everything comes in. you can see it.
So to give you the background on it, and I don't know if I can scroll through or give you another. This is so it isn't. It's a pretty game, and it's got some pieces and everything to it as well. But the mechanics really aren't that difficult when you get going, understanding what you're supposed to do. Matter of fact, it in and of itself designs you to speak to other people, talk to other people, work ahead, be strategizing when somebody's going, right, to our point of finding a game that does that as well, and gets people thinking about it and for a common goal. And that common goal is to understand the game is that you bring monsters out through a bag, like randomly, and you place them on the board. And your job is to work with the other components. You see there's 3 different, I don't know how they address them as areas, 3 colored areas.
Colors,
Colored areas, there's like, right? 1 through 6.
I think they call them sectors, if I recall correctly.
Thank you. And again, just look it up. There's a lot of guys reviewing the game itself. But our point being is that if you're thinking about a game to look up and spend time watching and reviewing for your family and getting them involved, this is the game, I believe, because it's co-opable. It has the excitement. And in the end, there is great joy in the end. It's like you finish something, and when you lose, you all lose together. And it's something you guys can talk about and be like, oh, we should have played this card. We should have done that. Yeah. When I hear that, and I'm very trying to understand, trying to maximize the time when people come to play and give me the time to sit down with me and play a game. This is the game I like to turn to because it has all those elements to it. I will add, and then get your thoughts on this. The game is twice as good when you add the Wizard expansion to it.
I like the Wizard expansion.
I love the Wizard expansion. It gives another card deck, but it's not a heavy mechanic that adds to it. It adds a little more thematic and view of the center because you're trying to stop them from getting to the center of the board, right?
That boss monster's rough, though.
The what?
Boss monsters are rough.
They are, but you know what? Yeah. It gives you a little bit, makes you inside go when it comes.
Gotta double down on the geek and play the Star Trek version with the little Enterprise.
Oh, dude, now you're going.
Yeah.
That might kick me out of my house if I did that up front. But yeah, you're right on that. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Disagree?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Good game. I got that one down the hole too.
This is a game that, like, the first time I played it, I really didn't enjoy it. I think it went too far in it's just so random that I feel like I can't get a grip on the game, and it's sort of like you can do everything right and still lose the game.
Yep. Yeah.
Because you drew 6 red monsters in a row.
Yep.
And it was like, well, you're dead because there's nothing you can do to stop everybody, and
right.
But to me,
so that's kind of.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I mean.
Because you're like, I'm doomed. You know what I mean? You're all doomed together. Let's just hold hands.
But it's sort of like, it at the opposite end of the spectrum, it's sort of okay, should we just resign now and reset the board? I mean, I seem to recall playing this game one of the first times I played it, and we maybe played it once, and the game went fairly good, and we were all kind of figuring out how it worked. And then the second time we played it, we lost in like 3 rounds. And it was like, what the heck was the point of that? So to be fair, the game that I picked can be the same way. If you get really unlucky, the game goes south in a hurry. That's kind of a flaw of co-op games
in general, right? Yeah.
Depending on how their mechanics work, but
because
I've played it more times since then, and I think with the Wizard expansion, I think that might have been what changed it for me. I enjoyed it a lot more.
Thank you. That's it. I was about to say to you. Later. What you sounds like you're talking about, which was with me too, is with the original game by itself. It happened.
It was just too random somehow, and it's like I think the Wizard gives you some abilities you can spend.
You get powers of the cards that really do.
Yeah, so you can sort of alter the deck in your favor in a way. And I think I needed just that little bit more positive control.
Exactly. So, and that's why I said I wouldn't buy the game without the expansion. I'm telling, if you're, if we're talking, like I said, we get into the dust factor, I think this has got a high or very low dust factor, but simplicity, it's there, but you got to bring that piece in, which adds a little more to the simplicity, making it a little tougher, but not that much. And it really makes the game more complete, I think. At least with that one expansion. I have not tried the other ones, so I'm not quite sure how that betters or worse, but just for the sake of basic buying and bringing out, I would do both of those as well.
So yeah, good picks, everybody.
Yeah, well done.
I want to play Horrified now. That looks really awesome.
It's very, very light. It's the 5-minute while everybody's arriving kind of. Let's just run around the board and grab stuff.
Come on, movie monsters.
Yeah. So let's talk. Right now would be the time we'd roll some dice and pick next week. for the conversation, but we'll do that next week, because I think this week, Chris, you mentioned Above and Below for a review. I think we'll bring that out for the kiddos. We've done a lot of adult games.
Not just for kiddos.
No, but I'm saying inclusive, right? Into
It's that's definitely an inclusive game. It does not have. Well, I don't want to preview the review, but
yeah, okay. So we'll bring that out Above and Below. I have not played it yet myself, so I look forward to reviewing and checking it out. Hopefully, maybe we can jump on and try that before our next show. And then next week, like we did with the co-op, we'll talk about the ones that have no dust factor at all, like the number one games, right? That we constantly bring out and play. Just and a quick reason why that one game. So if you look at go look back behind you and see your big selection of games, the one that comes out the most, right? And why that is. Now that may or may not be family, introduction based, but if it's that strong of a game, and you're a strong person, personality-wise, or in your household, and you meet with people, eventually you're going to have that game be the game. So you might want to consider learning it yourself, developing it, and doing it. So next week we'll talk about that.
That's going to be a tough choice.
Yeah, I know. So next week we'll do that. But we'll roll some dice. What do you say, y'all? All right, and then we'll pick next week as far as just randomly what we'll talk about. But we'll get it set up for next week. So.
Sure.
All right, guys. Good show. Thank you guys for as always jumping on, spending some time, and giving your point of view for everybody out there. I think this is a strong, and I think it's a great piece that's not out there to this specific point as much as it should be. So kudos to you, and thanks for joining us. So folks, again, if you want to be part of it, let us know. You can hit us up Twitter, BoardSTIFF4, the number 4 that is, at BoardSTIFF4. You can go to email at boardstiffgamer at gmail.com. You can email us off. Give us your thoughts, opinions, sarcastic remarks. Love it all if you so choose so. And then YouTube, if you're listening right now on the podcast, you can always head over and check us out at BoardStiff on YouTube. And of course, you're watching this YouTube, you can check us out in the car if we get back to commuting again or do whatever, and listen as well. So, all right, guys, thanks a lot. Until next time, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks all.
Peace.
Yeah.